Here we are. Well, I would say we're back, but we've never been here before, technically. But welcome to the College Football Podcast, better known as CFP. The only thing worth note with those initials, I am one half of this tandem, Jack High. I'm joined by Joe Public. Joe, how we doing today? It is there is a crisp in the air. It feels like football weather, at least where I am.
Yep, same here. We just started a cold snap. It was went from 95 degrees to like 65, and it's holding steady. I was, having a great day, and then, we ran into Big Billy and Carstairs, and the day gets a lot worse. Well, if anyone's watching this when it gets posted, you'll meet these guys eventually. You'll learn who these guys are. So, but yeah, this is exciting. Brand new show, first episode.
Yeah, no, we are half of the lineup on the Dude Shut Up network that we have that's going to be debuting with our flagship show. Maybe next week, maybe this week.
Maybe never.
TBD is I think where we've landed on that one. But yes, you will meet the uproarious cast of characters and have many laughs with them as we go on. But it's just good to be back talking football, back to be, fall is in the air, as I said, and I'm just ready to get the ball on the field and go.
I'm really excited, and I really like what you've done with our logo. I think it's really good. Especially the cat in the middle, obviously. So.
Obviously, yes. And again, follow the Instagram College Football Podcast one. You can see many. We'll have clips and different stuff up there.
YouTube channel, Dude Shut Up. Please subscribe if you'd like.
Yeah, no. Even if you wouldn't like subscribe, really, what does it matter to you?
Yeah, just hit the button.
Yeah, we won't get
turn off YouTube notifications if you don't want to see it, but do subscribe, please.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So, I guess here we go. We're going into the 2025 season, or 2025 season. We're leaving 24 in the past. Reigning national champion, Ohio State champions no more.
Do we call it 2025-26 season? Is that what is that? Do we do that?
I guess so. I mean, there's like 3 games in 2026.
I know.
So yes, sure.
But Nick, if you remember, Jack, geez, who the hell is Nick?
I don't know. Nick.
Jack, yeah. No, Nick is a guy outside my window. I think if you remember last year's brackets, they all said 2025 CFP on them.
Yeah, no, it is annoying. It happens when I play college football too. Like I'll be playing in the national championship game, and on the field it's written like 2030, but it's really 29. It always messes my head.
There's a lot wrong with college football. That being one of the more minor issues. But I think I was thinking of Jack Nicholas or Jack Nicholson.
I get that a lot.
Yeah,
it makes sense. But yeah, no, Jack High.
I'm just glad you're not Queen High.
No, well, yeah, I'm
maybe a King High, but
although we might have more viewers if I was Queen High.
Not the kind of viewers we want.
Well, numbers are numbers.
Should we scrap the recording? Should we start over?
If the Democratic Party's taught me nothing, it's that numbers are numbers.
Great.
But here we go. Let's get into the more tangible stuff here. Let's get into what's going to happen on the field. We're going to whip around to the Power 4 conferences, and then we'll get you our national championship predictions, Heisman picks, and then week 0 picks, because there is some ball that's going to be played this weekend. Little taster, little appetizer for you. One big game and then a bunch of little ones, but it'll be fun. It'll get the beak wet.
Absolutely.
But let's start first we're going to go in alphabetical order with the ACC. ACC, a conference that just keeps being threatened that they're not going to be a conference anymore. People are talking about moving, so they went out west and brought in Pacific Coast teams. and really just threw everybody for a loop. Who knows how long they will be? They were represented by Clemson and SMU in the college football playoff last year. SMU losing pretty handedly to Penn State in their game, and Clemson giving Texas a
Yeah,
battle.
they put up a fight, especially that first half. They looked really good.
Yeah, they did. I think I saw they think they had the second highest QB rating against the Texas defense last year
Yeah.
of any of their opponents.
Interesting thing about conference alignment, which we don't need to get too much into. At this point, everybody's aware of how crazy it all is. But
Yeah.
these four power conferences represent about 55% of the total teams in the FBS now. So, it used to be like you'd have to do 6 or 7 conferences would be like 55-60% of the whole field. Now it's just 4 conferences. So it's fun, but it's also a little overwhelming.
Yeah, it creates a lot of opportunities, but it creates some problems too. Things like schedule inequality.
Yeah.
We might touch on a couple
In
times here.
conference, strength of schedule, imbalance, stuff like that.
Yeah, it can be totally out of whack. As we kind of saw with SMU last year, they kind of had a nice little path for them through their conference schedule. But that was 2024. We
Right.
slash 2025. We are now 2025 slash 2026.
Right.
So yeah, we're it's a new year, but I think it's gonna go back to the old ways personally. With how this ACC is going to shake out. Although there's a couple little dark horses that
Yep.
could do a little dance and go. So, Zach, do you want to lead off with kind of your
Yeah.
conference preview a little bit?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Joe,
Yeah.
sorry.
I'll just get into it. Yeah. Joe Zacharias is the guy. There's a guy called that as well.
It is that guy, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're getting into it.
No.
We're feeling it out.
This is how you'll know when we meet fans that they were there from day one, because they'll know little
Be like
tidbits.
Z and N. Z. No, J and J. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, which I think is the majority opinion around the country here, I think this is Clemson's conference to lose. I really like how they came on strong at the end of last year. Yes, they lost in their first round game against Texas, but the quarterback play was incredible down the stretch by Cade Klubnik. I think they take that next step and kind of dominate this conference. I wouldn't be surprised if they go totally undefeated in this conference and go right to that conference championship game. I'm a little chalky here. I like Miami to also be in the conference championship game. I think Beck is good enough where he joins a pretty talented roster. They got good transfers, good recruits. They've kind of built up that Miami culture again. There are definitely some interesting teams in here too. Duke, a lot of people have been kind of high on Duke. You've obviously got the Bill Belichick wrinkle going on in North Carolina. I don't know if they're quite ready to be in this conversation this season. Man, the fall of Stanford and Cal, man, these teams just the out west teams. I don't think they're going to be part of the equation here at all in terms of competitiveness. 2 teams that I think are little dark horses. I really like Georgia Tech. I love how they played big games. It's hard to even call them a dark horse because they're being picked in the top 4 of the conference. But this is a team that hasn't been relevant for a long time. Really like the way they played in big games last year, especially that, 7 OTs against Georgia?
Yeah.
Haynes King, I really like him as the quarterback. Dual threat, strong guy, unafraid. So I like Georgia Tech. That's my dark horse here. And Louisville is always a team that seems to play interesting football in this conference. We'll see how they, how it goes without Tyler Shook. Tyler Shook.
It was college all year long. It was Tyler Shug, and then all of a sudden he was in the NFL draft, and it was Tyler Shuck. Like they changed it totally. It was like Kofi. It was like Kofi Coburn. Everybody knew it was Kofi Cockburn, but
right.
we just were afraid to say cock.
Bahamian Illinois legend on the basketball court.
It's
Uh,
true.
yeah, couldn't shoot a foul shot though. It's definitely
Could not.
definitely
Could.
Cockburn.
Yeah,
Um,
it was phonetic.
we all know it. We all.
Yeah, yeah. I know how to spell. It was literally a compound word.
There's a couple other names floating around in different sports right now that we're not going to say on this program that fit the bill. But anyways, especially Oakland A's baseball player. And anyways, we've got those are the teams I'm interested in as a dark horse. I really am interested in to see how Georgia Tech, if they can take a big step. Duke basically kicked Malik Murphy out of there and brought in a new quarterback. Thought that might be a bit of a mistake. Murphy played really nice last year.
Darian Mintz is the truth. I'll tell you that, and that is
Okay.
only because last year I took Tulane to a national championship in NCAA 25, and he was awesome. So Darian Mensa is a dude.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I believe we played a no one cares. I'm not even gonna get into it. Florida State, can they bounce back? That's an interesting question. Can they be a relevant team again? I'm betting on no. So in my player of the year, I'm going with the easy pick. I'm going with Cade Klubnik. I think he's going to be awesome. I think he's going to have a fantastic season. Great dual threat.
Yeah. So we're very kind of aligned here, but let's kind of dig in a little bit deeper. I agree with you. I think this is Clemson's conference to lose. I think that if they do what they should do, they shouldn't really have any problems in within this conference. They're number one in the country in returning production, with 85% of their production coming back this year,
Classic Dabo.
including well, Dabble's also finally embraced the transfer portal a little bit, and he did bring in, especially on the defensive side, they got Will Helt and Amari Adams from Purdue. They should really help that defense, which is already a really good defense. The other thing that should help is they brought in Tom Allen to be their new defensive coordinator. He was over in Penn State last year and really got that defense going. You might remember he was at Indiana as a head coach before that. So I think they've made some really good moves to bolster what is already a great lineup. On offense, they lose Maffa,
Right.
running back, but really return everything else. Their top three receivers are returning. Four of their five offensive linemen are returning, and then obviously Klubnik's returning. Uh, so I think that they are poised to really kind of have a resurgence after they were kind of on top of the college football world for 4 or 5 years. They fell down kind of, I think, a tier for a little bit, and I think they're poised to make that step right back into that top tier. I agree with you that Miami should be the second best team. They are kind of the opposite as far as returning production. They only have 52% of their production coming back. A lot of transfers. They lost Damian Martinez. They lost receiver Xavier Restrepo.
Hmm.
So they're going to need production from transfers. Obviously, you have Carson Beck coming in from Georgia. Um, a lot of negative pub coming out from Georgia after he left. That he was kind of obviously they're going to say that. So it'll be interesting.
Not a big fan of that guy personally, but
Carson Beck.
I think the fit could be good.
I think it could be a much better fit with him in Miami. And I do think there's something to say that he might have held back Georgia last year. And that Georgia could be better without him this year. We'll get into that a little when we go to the
And then
SEC.
we will get into that, but Georgia looked pretty bad in that CFP loss without him. So maybe
They did.
maybe a push and a pull on that narrative.
They did. Miami did bring in C.J. Daniels, a transfer from LSU, and then Keelan Marion, who was big receiver for BYU last year. So they're going to need them to hit the ground running and kind of bolster the receiving core. They should have probably the best offensive line in the country. Their offensive line is just stud after stud. Their production there should be
They
great.
didn't really run the ball with great success last year. They didn't really even try to. Do they have that? Do they have a guy who can be the bell cow?
So they lost Damian Martinez.
Right.
They have Mark Fletcher and Jordan Lyle who are coming back. They're kind of going to be the double-headed monster for them. I think they should be able to run behind this offensive line. I mean, it's as good as any in the country. It's going to be really good. Now, how they use that and how they take advantage of that, I think. I think last year they were chasing points a little bit because their defense was very bad. Cam Ward kept them in a lot of games and won a lot of games for
Yeah,
them.
absolutely.
So they're going to need to turn that defense around. They have a couple transfers, including Mohamed Torre, who transferred from Rutgers. I actually watched him play last year. I went to a game at Nebraska. Rutgers played, and he was the one guy on Rutgers that I was like, okay, like that dude stood out. So I think him going to Miami is a great opportunity for him, and I think it'll be great for Miami. I think they'll get production out of him. But yeah, they're going to have to step up on defense. They did get a new D coordinator. Corey Heatherman comes to them from Minnesota. Um, and they got five 4-star secondary transfers. We're now putting stars to the transfers, but they did bring in basically a whole new secondary, but it is a very talented secondary. So I think Miami should be the second best team, but I agree with you also that Georgia Tech's going to be a very good team this year. They bring back Haynes King. He was first in the ACC last year in completion percentage at 73%, and he only threw 2 picks. So he does not give the other team an opportunity, or he hasn't in the past. He also had 587 and 11 touchdowns on the ground. And then Jamal Haynes, the other half of the Haynes and Haynes,
Yeah.
he returns at running back. He had over 1,000 yards both of his first 2 seasons. So there's no reason to think that he's not going to do that again. Their offensive line was number 3 nationally last year. They only had a sack on 2% of their snaps, which led the nation. Um, they are rebuilding there. I think they lost 3 of their 5 starters, but Coach Brent Key is known for building offensive lines. That's kind of his area of expertise, what he does. So, giving them the benefit of the doubt that they should reload instead of rebuild there. Their defensive coordinator did leave for the NFL. He's now with the Ravens. I believe he's a linebacker coach. So they hired a Texas analyst, actually, Blake Gideon.
Yeah.
He's going to be their new defensive coordinator.
I wish
They,
he. I wish. Sorry.
no, you're good.
I wish he ran over to Starkeesian on the final series last year. Anyways,
Yeah.
even though he's on defense.
That is fair. They returned 62% of their production on defense. Their secondary returns most of their contributors, so they should be a very solid team this year. They play, I believe, Colorado very early. It might be week 1 or week 2. I think that'll be a very big game and kind of show where Georgia Tech is. But they have a lot of people coming back, and there definitely are expectations in Atlanta that haven't been there in a while. And then I think the real wild card of this conference, as we kind of close up the ACC, is Florida State. So you had them last year; they were 2-10. It was the largest drop in wins by a Power Four program uh, in history. And it was the third preseason top 10 team to get less than 3 wins. The other two, 1954 and 1956, with
Yeah.
Illinois and Notre Dame, respectively. So, kind of what happened with there? I think number one, where Florida State's problem kind of got exacerbated is that Mike Norvell's first 4 recruiting classes for Florida State have been the lowest rated in modern history for Florida State.
Right.
He has relied very heavily on the transfer portal and not on recruiting. I think where that hurts you is if a couple of those guys go down, which last year they had a lot of injuries and they didn't have the depth because they hadn't built it up through recruiting. When you bring in all those recruits, it's great if they work out. But if you have injury issues or a couple guys don't pan out, it can leave you very shorthanded. And I think that was part of the problem with Florida State last year. I think
First,
the other problem they had is they just let 2023 or they just let what happened to them with the playoff the year before linger. It was still affecting them. They couldn't get over it. All summer long, they were
yeah,
still.
and I think he overplayed or maybe, sorry, I think he underplayed the value of Jordan Travis and kind of thought he could piece it together again and the team would be fine. Bringing in DJ didn't work out, and it was also the kind of thing where a lot of their losses early were super close. It kind of snowballed, and it's a shocking result, for them to be 2-10. But I can't imagine it's going to be that bad again.
Their offense, not only did they knock it over Jordan Travis, it was a historically bad offense. Let me give you some numbers.
It was.
FBS schools averaged 380 yards a game. 127 of the 134 averaged over 300 yards a game. So the average was 380, 127 averaged over 300. Florida State didn't go over 300 yards against a single FBS team last year. That's how that defense or that offense was one of the worst in the history. So you have all that. And now you're sitting here looking, how is it going to get better? Well, they hired Gus Malzahn as an offensive coordinator.
Kind of an odd fit. I think.
It is kind of an odd fit, but it's a guy who's shown that he can get offenses working at this level.
It's true.
He maybe hasn't panned out as a head coach some places, but as a coordinator, he's always been pretty good. So I think that will be good. And then they added for a quarterback, it's another transfer. They got Tommy Castellanos from BC. He had a hell of a year in 2023. Last year, Bill O'Brien came into BC, and it just was not a good fit. The way kind of Castellanos plays, I don't think jived with O'Brien's offense.
It was for a while, and then he got benched, and he talks. He's a bit of an outgoing personality, so he talked a lot. I think it rubbed O'Brien the wrong way. But, I mean, Castellanos beat the brakes off Florida State in week 2, I think, last year, and looked great doing it in a big upset. I believe they were 17-point dogs. And, yeah, I like the guy. I'm rooting for him. I just don't know how it's going to work out here. Can't.
I don't, but like at all other Mike Norvell teams at Florida State, it's going to come down to the transfer class. They're going to need to come up big, and if they play like their potential, then I think Florida State could be a dark horse team in the ACC this year, especially kind of with the way their schedule pans out. They don't have the hardest of the ACC schedules. So I think Florida State could be markedly better. I think they will be markedly better than last year. I don't know how much of a step they're going to take if they'll be a contender in the ACC.
I doubt they'll be 1-7 in the conference again.
I agree. Excuse me.
Good doggies.
Hey, Kona. Kona. There's a UPS man here, and it is.
Could be FedEx.
They're walking away now. This is crazy behavior.
There we go.
Crazy behavior.
There we go.
These are not my dogs, by the way.
They're good dogs.
Watching them, they are great dogs. But
protecting the home. That's what you want.
They don't want to know what Brown can do for them.
Speaking of which, NC State Wolfpack, totally irrelevant, right?
Yeah. They'll have a fun offense to watch. They have a couple athletes, but I don't think they'll be in the conversation.
I do want to get your take on what the Belichick era will look like. Well, not the whole era, but the beginning of it this season. Because
I think
that interests everybody. That interests everybody.
The results that they have this season, I think, will go a long way towards what I think the era will look like.
Right.
He's going to have to use the fact that he's Bill Belichick to get guys to come and play there. But I don't think just anything I've ever seen from him as a coach lends itself very well to the college game. I do think a lot of people like this having his son as the defensive coordinator. It's not like his son was coaching Foxborough High and he brought him up. I mean, he was the D coordinator out at Washington. He did a great job out there. He has earned the right to be a big-time coordinator. So I think he is actually a really good hire for North Carolina, and I think he'll get their defense going well. But I think a lot of what they do this year will have an effect on what they do going forward and getting kids
Yeah.
especially transfers to go there. I'm really interested to see how it plays out. In my mind, it just doesn't work. It doesn't fit. It feels forced, but I don't know.
You know, ton of talk and hype in like May and June. It's really kind of worn off. It's
Yeah,
kind of just settled down. Not hearing a ton about North Carolina. I think that's a testament to Bill though, because Bill is a no nonsense coach, and I, you know, we're not giving him a ton of love for this season. I wouldn't be shocked if they have a. I wouldn't be shocked if they have a really good defense somehow. Like they might not have the pieces, but this guy's he is a genius with the defense. His son and him will certainly be on the same page, and he's legendarily known for week to week game planning better than anyone else. So that could be a real advantage for North Carolina.
it
Um,
could. It
yeah,
could.
we also didn't even mention SMU, who made the college football playoff last year.
No,
They didn't
we
particularly do
did.
well in the first round, but
No, they didn't, and I don't know. I was never really a big believer in them this last year. They do return a decent amount this year, but
do they
but
return Jennings?
Jennings is back. Yeah, Jennings was back. He took the job from Preston Stone last year. Um, but he had 16 turnovers last year. He had 11 interceptions, 5 fumbles. He's gonna need to, I think, get those numbers down. Um,
The first half of the college football playoff game they lost was one of the worst quarterback games I've ever seen.
Yeah, it really was, and their rushing attack was. I think it was shown in that game how important their running attack was. They had Brashard Smith last year,
Yeah, yeah,
um, almost 2,000 all-purpose yards, 1,300 yards rushing. He was a major factor, and Penn State was kind of able to make SMU one-dimensional and force Jennings to beat him, and that kind of showed that I don't think Jennings needs some help. I don't think he was ready to win games by himself, and I think that's where you see him throw the interceptions is when the game kind of gets on his shoulders. Um, they did have a really great defense last year. They did lose over half their production from that defense, so they're going to have to rebuild there. Um, so I just think SMU came into the conference, hit the ground running, benefited from a pretty sweet schedule, and was able to. I mean, we also forget they were what Clemson was how many minutes away from SMU not getting in. I mean, Clemson has to first off, Miami has to blow the game the last week of the season so
yeah,
that SMU can get into the ACC championship, and then from there, I don't know. I just they never really did it for me last year, and
yeah.
I don't expect. I think they're going to take
Their,
a big step
their
back this
their
year.
schedule was fairly soft as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I hate the narrative like they didn't belong in the college football playoff, but also maybe they didn't belong in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I don't think they were on the level of the other teams, but I think you could say that about some other teams that made it
For
too.
sure, for
You can
sure.
only play who's on your schedule. They do have it hard. They have to go to Clemson this year. They do have Miami and Louisville also on the schedule,
Yeah, not
and
going
they
to be a
have
good.
an out of conference game against Baylor, who I think will be a very good team this year as well. So I think they'll have. There's some losses in there
Yeah,
for them to regress. But yeah, so I had Clemson over Miami, uh, and I also had Klubnik as my player of the year in that conference.
a
Uh,
little chalky, but it just feels like the right answer.
and that's kind of what the ACC is. They're kind of the chalky. They're
It's
very
felt that
top
way for
heavy.
a while. Yeah.
They're very top heavy. Pitt could be another team. Watch out for Pitt this year.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. They could be good. Yeah.
yeah,
They flashed last year. I believe did they beat Clemson was it like a really close game they'd lost? I can't. I think they blew it.
Clemson.
I think
I
they
think they
blew it.
did blow it because Clemson lost to Louisville. I think that
Yeah.
was their.
It should have beat Clemson in
Yeah,
Pitt last year, and they blew it. It was a wild game. I remember that one.
yeah.
Vaguely remember it, but all right. So we're on the same page with the ACC. Where are we going next?
Next, we're gonna head to the Midwest. We're gonna do the Big Ten next. Big Ten. which what
Let's
has
jam
been.
a couple more logos in there. I don't think there's enough teams in this conference.
I don't think there is either. Yeah. What are we at now? We are at
18.
18 teams in the Big Ten,
Yeah.
spanning coast to coast.
It's a true
Obviously,
nationwide conference. Nationwide, baby.
they're on your side.
Yeah,
Um,
they are.
but let's get right into the Big Ten this year. Um, I'm kind of chalky here too, to be honest, but I think that the top two teams in this conference are two of the top five teams in the country. So it's chalky, but I think Penn State and Ohio State are, if not one, two, three. I mean, there's a couple, there's Texas is in the conversation, but they're in that conversation. I think
No
Penn
doubt.
State has a lot less question marks than Ohio State has. Ohio State lost more. Penn State, especially in offense, you're bringing back Drew Aller, you're bringing back Nick Singleton, you're bringing back Katron Allen.
Yeah.
You lose Tyler Warren, who was a great playmaker for them at tight end last year. Um,
Truly
but
unique talent, Tyler Warren.
he is, yes.
A joy to watch. The ultimate Swiss Army knife, the Taysom Hill of college football.
Yep. And then obviously they go out. I think they lost what by 3 to Notre Dame
The game
in
they
that
probably
game.
should have
A
won.
game, a game I believe they should have won as well. Yep. So I think they have a lot of redemption to do this year. They didn't go out and schedule anybody really out of conference. Nevada, Florida International, and Villanova are they're out of conference. But of the big teams, they kind of have the toughest in conference. They have Oregon at home, and then they do have to go to Ohio State on November 1st.
I feel like
Uh,
they always have to go to Ohio State. It always feels like they have to go there, and it's probably just a perception. I'm sure that's not the case. It just always
the
feels like they're playing a road game there.
The only reason is I have like specific images of my head of Ohio State playing there on like a whiteout and just
You're
not
right.
being able to do anything.
Basically, they just lose to Ohio State wherever the game is.
Yes, they do. And that's kind of been the MO of their coach, James Franklin.
Yeah,
Not a guy known for winning big games. So that's kind of going to be, I think, their biggest, and it's not like a tangible, but mentally getting over that hurdle and winning those big games, I think, is going to be their toughest task. Because on paper, I think they are the best team in the Big Ten, at least.
they did win two big games last year. I know SMU's not the toughest, and I'm blanking on who they beat in the second round. And then
Boise State.
that's right, they weren't exactly the biggest wins, but when you say it's a college football playoff victory, it still counts for something. But the way they didn't get it done against Notre Dame was that same James Franklin formula all over again.
Right. And you look at, they had a hell of a year last year, but their biggest win
That's right. It
uh,
really wasn't a huge one. Yeah.
at or home against USC. Like they beat Maryland, Minnesota, Purdue, Washington, Wisconsin, USC, UCLA, Illinois, Kent State, Bowling Green, a game they almost lost
Right.
in West Virginia. Like they didn't beat anybody last year.
Not really. Yeah. It's a
Or
great.
they didn't beat anybody who's going to give them any credibility in the they can't win a big game argument.
Yeah.
Because
It's
they
typical.
have.
It's typical Penn State. They're a top 10, 15 team, but they don't win the top 5 matchups.
Right. I mean, you go back to 2023, their 3 losses: Ohio State, Michigan, Ole Miss, the 3 best
Yeah.
teams they played.
Yeah.
2022, their losses: Ohio State, Michigan. Like their wins, they beat the teams they should beat, but they don't win the games they need to win so far. So I think that's going to be the biggest question mark for them this year.
Yeah. Because I love what they're returning. I don't think there's a better 1-2 punch right now at running back
No.
in the country. The defense, yes, you lost Abdul Carter. They're gonna be good again. They just will be good again. Ohio State with their newly named quarterback, who I'm going to mint. Just saying, he looks good. I think he's very talented. He should be really good. We're obviously all looking to that week 1 game, that clash between Texas and Ohio State. That's gonna one of the most hyped games probably in the history of college football in terms of yeah. Why not say that? Probably one of the most hyped games at the beginning of the year in college football history. So um,
It's
we'll
on
learn.
the list.
Yeah, we'll learn a lot about the Ohio State quarterback right there. Don't need to say much about Jeremiah Smith. I anticipate him having an absolutely nuclear season. Um, Ohio State will do the thing where they absolutely slaughter mediocre and bad teams, and we'll see, like, could they be really dominant and just kind of run the table easily? Yeah, I think it's a possibility, but they might have 3 or 4 tests that they're going to have to get through. I think they get through it just fine. What do you think?
So they have Texas, obviously. You just talked about, and I think that is in my lifetime one of the biggest open. We also get LSU Clemson that same weekend.
Week 1
So
is big. Week 1's
in
got some
week one,
really loaded matchups.
this is the most loaded week one in that I can
Next
remember.
week's show is going to be a lot of hype
Oh
and
yeah,
a lot of fun to talk about. Yeah,
absolutely. So you look at Ohio State, freshman quarterback Julian just saying. Um,
right.
so his first
It's a
start.
good nickname. I can't believe no one else has said it yet.
No, his first start's going to be against Texas and what is maybe one of the best defenses in college football in the last 5 years.
Right.
So that's going to be how he's introduced to the college game. So that's going to be a very tough test for them week one.
I believe they're
Then
favorites still, though.
are they? Is that
I
the
think,
line
I
right
think
now?
they're 1.5 point favorites or something like that. Yeah.
It is in Columbus.
Yes, correct.
So that does help.
They host Penn State, and they obviously got Michigan, who should
They
be beat.
host they host Penn State and then yeah, Michigan. Yeah, but Michigan shouldn't have beat them last year, and they beat the brakes off of them.
Michigan's absolutely flipped the script on that matchup, and it's got their number.
So the conversation that we just had about Penn State about not being able to win the big game, right now, that's the conversation I think that's holding Ohio State back is can they beat Michigan? I mean,
Right.
Ryan Day has really been made to look a fool, and I don't like giving Michigan any credit whatsoever. But they have just pulled his pants down and spanked them the last 2 years, and last year they go on to
3 years,
it's kind
really. I think 3 years
the
in a row.
last 3 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're correct. But last year, obviously, they regroup and they go on to just really run through a big chunk of that college football playoff. I mean, what
Yeah,
they did to Oregon the first week of that playoff was criminal.
the Texas game was closer than it ended up appearing, but they earned it. They slaughtered Tennessee. They slaughtered Oregon. Um, and they basically slaughtered Notre Dame. Notre Dame just made a late push, but they never really got back in it. So
Yeah, I mean, their first two games, they outgained Tennessee and Oregon by over 200 yards. I
I
mean,
do
they
not
just
like the postseason narrative, like the day after they won the title, where everyone's like, "Is this the greatest college football team of all time?" Well, no, they had 2
no.
losses,
Yeah.
and they lost to Michigan at home against a team that was like 7-6. So give me a break, please.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that was definitely overblown. I was just, I think people just looking at
For
how
the first
good
time
they
the team
looked.
has to get through a 12-team playoff, they're like, oh wow, what an accomplishment. Yeah, it's a great accomplishment. It's not the best team of all time.
No,
When a team goes 16-0 and raises the trophy, then you can have that conversation.
agreed. So um, so in my conference championship game, I have Penn State and Ohio State, and I do have Penn State winning. I'm just going right now by who I think is more talented, who I think is more battle tested, and I think that's Penn State.
We are unfortunately very on the same page today so far. I've got Penn State defeating Ohio State in the conference championship game.
Yeah, I think Allen, Singleton, and Aller are just too. They're going to be too good, and I think they're going to be on a mission because I think this is the best chance Penn State has had to really do something nationally in a long time.
Is Ohio
So,
State losing those 2 defensive ends who were unbelievable last year?
um,
Jack whatever and
they lost. Yes, they lost Jack. I don't know if they lost.
his name
Um,
was Jack High.
Yeah, Jack High. They did lose. I don't. I think they have the other side is returning. I'm
Jack
blanking on his.
Sawyer. There we go.
Yeah, they did lose Jack Sawyer. Um, I believe. 1 second.
Little notes action. Yeah, Jack Sawyer with that strip sack return touchdown against Ewers to seal that Texas game still haunts me, haunts my dreams. But yeah,
Yeah, so they lost both of them. They do. They're very young at defensive line,
yeah,
but they're a
there's
lot of top recruits.
there's such a transfer recruit machine. It's almost like it. Ohio State's losses are hardly ever losses. I mean, obviously you're a Michigan State man, and you know it's got to be annoying. But I don't
Yeah.
have I don't have the stats, but I feel like over the last 25 years, Ohio State's got to be the most consistent team in football in college football, right?
Oh yeah, they're if not the most, they're in the conversation. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, Alabama was very good over that stretch of time. Um,
I just can't remember a time when they had like a 4 or 5 loss season. I don't think they have.
it's been a while for
Yeah, I'm
sure.
not,
Yeah,
not sure, but
it's been a very long time.
yeah,
Um,
not really a down year in Ohio State ever. It's wild.
yeah,
Eh,
so that's kind of where our chalk is.
Who's your player of the year?
I had Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, we continue to be on the same page. I just don't see how someone that talented, and he set reception, yards, and receiving touchdown records all time for a true freshman in college
Yeah.
football history. That's I mean, usually the graph goes up, not down from there. So
I can see a world where he doesn't win it, where like a Drew Aller and Penn State just kind of roll through,
yeah,
and
I can
Drew
see a
Aller wins
world where
it.
he doesn't win it, but
Um,
he's probably getting invited to that ceremony.
but yeah, and I think unequivocally he's the most talented player in that conference.
Yeah.
Um, so then if you're looking to go a little less chalk, um, we do have some dark horses.
Yeah.
Uh, who do you got for a dark horse in the Big Ten, Joe?
Well, I've got your least favorite team. Well, maybe other than Michigan. I think Iowa. Iowa's Iowa. They great defense, low scoring games, rock fights, bad quarterback play. That's Iowa. I actually like the guy Iowa brought in for once to play quarterback. I think he's a lot better than what they've had. I don't know who that dude. Can't remember his name from last year with like the foreign sounding name, but boy was he bad for Iowa. 50% completion percentage. It can't be.
They had McNamara last year, the Michigan.
Oh, the year before that, they had some guy who was just
Oh yeah, yeah they
miserable.
did. He
Yeah,
was
his
terrible.
last name started with an S. It was like
Yeah, it
it
was
sounded
like
Slavic.
Stavi or
It was
Slavic.
like
Yeah,
yeah, Slavic name or something. He
it
just was
was.
miserable. I don't know. I like who they brought in this year. I'm blanking on the name because I'm not very good at this show, but I think they can actually, it's kind of like a Penn State junior kind of vibe from Iowa over the years. They win the tough games. They beat like teams that are ranked like 20th and 17th, but when they play a real game, they get blown out. I think Iowa can take a step this year, be in the conversation, a nice third place finish, maybe even slip into the playoff. You know they're not going to allow more than 20 points a game. That puts you in most ball games. So if their offense can just be a little better than what they have been, I think there's room for growth for Iowa here. And I do think they have a consistent program year to year with a good coach. So Oregon, it's not fair to call them a dark horse because they're Oregon and they were the number 1 seed last year. Yeah, they lost a lot. I think they'll be solid. I just think they have a bit of a down year.
Yeah, I think they're a step below the top two.
Yeah.
I as we start this new show, I do want to get control of the narrative with me in Iowa. My problem with Iowa is the moral superiority they hold themselves with because they turn and wave to a children's hospital that happens to look at their stadium. They didn't plan this. They didn't build it. They all of a sudden were like, "Oh, let's wave at the sick kids who have to watch us win 3-0 every week." Me, right? So that's where my problem with Iowa comes with. It honestly, growing up, I didn't really hate Iowa. We like as a Michigan State fan, we would like weirdly lose to them at times, so I didn't like them. But I didn't have the hatred for it that I have for them since the last couple years, where they carry themselves like they're a blue blood who does nothing like you're Iowa. And Luca Garza, I hated Luca Garza. So
That's fair. That's
that was around the same
He's
time
got
where
a
they
very
started
unlikable
waving.
face, Luca Garza.
He does.
Yeah.
And he was right about this time that they started waving, because they'll have you believe they've been waving at these sick kids since the 30s. They've been waving at these sick kids for less than a decade. Okay, like if you were sick as a child in Iowa in 2004, nobody was waving to you. Like it's a newfound thing that they've just like made that they're the best people in the world because they turn and wave to some kids, and I hate that. So that's where I hate Iowa.
And then they
And
go
then
win 5-3 and act like it was an accomplishment.
right, right. Like I feel like there's been years where they've gotten more safeties than touchdowns at that place, and that's not helping people heal. So
No.
as we move on, I'm going to go ahead and do my dark horse, and it's going to spit right in the fate of Iowa, because not only is Nebraska's corn better than Iowa's, their
Ooh.
football team's better too. We
Okay.
got Matt Rule going into his third year here. We got Dylan Raiola about to make the next step. And guess what? Nebraska, remember a team last year called Indiana?
Yeah.
They had the easiest schedule in the history of college football. And they
Yeah.
took advantage of that and they went to the playoffs. Well, the schedule makers decided that this year they were going to do Nebraska a favor. Does Nebraska play Ohio State? No. Does Nebraska play Oregon? No. They avoid Ohio State and Oregon. They do have to play at Penn State, but in this day and age, you can lose a game. The
Yeah.
rest of their schedule: Cincinnati, Akron, Houston Christian, which I had to look twice to make sure it was Houston Christian and not Houston Baptist, because
Yeah.
Houston Baptist I've heard of. Houston Christian, I don't know
Yeah.
where, like
Never
that's
heard of
like
it. Never heard of it.
never heard of it. No, it's like IMG Academy. Um, then they have Michigan, Michigan State, Maryland, Minnesota, Northwestern, USC, UCLA, by Penn State, and then they're going to kick the ever living shit out of Iowa. That's how their schedule goes. Not the world's toughest schedule in the world, especially
Yeah.
because I think Michigan's not going to be a good team. I think Michigan State, I think people are sleeping on them. Right? I'm not going to turn this into a Michigan State podcast, but I think people are sleeping on them. I think we could be all right. I think we might win like 7 to 9 games this year.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Nebraska at home last year gave Ohio State a big old scare, right?
Nebraska last year, I have it right here.
I think they gave
It
Ohio
was
State a big
part of
old
my.
scare.
Yep, they did. So Nebraska, if you'll remember, Nebraska last year started out 3-0, lost to Illinois, and then they beat Purdue and Rutgers, and then they kind of went on a skid. They played Ohio State. They lost 21-17, Ohio
Yeah.
State.
Yeah, I remember. It was a
Um,
tight one.
it was the week after they got trounced by Indiana 56-7, though.
That was bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really weird. So they did end the season poorly, but they won 2 of their last 3, including a bowl game. I believe it was the Pinstripe Bowl over BC.
You're making a good case. It's just hard for me to be convinced that they can get away from fall into the same old traps that Nebraska always falls into. Giant hype, big starts, and then suddenly they're losing games they have no business losing. And it just kind of the season unravels. Now, yeah, the schedule's easier. The quarterback's a year older. He's good. But this is your specialty. The Big Ten, you're a Big Ten guy. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna give you this take. I'm gonna give you this take.
Well, I mean, I could be totally wrong. I'm not saying go and kill your bookmaker by betting Nebraska to win the national championship.
Right.
Now, I do have a future on them to make the playoff at plus 950.
I like
Little,
that. I like that.
little scratch, because I think they do have a very winnable schedule. I think it's Matt Rule's third year, and historically, if a coach is going to take over a program, the third year is really where you see that big jump. So I think that with having, I mean, people forget Dylan Raiola was the top quarterback recruit in the country. when he committed to. I mean, he committed to Georgia, then decommitted, and now he went to Nebraska. I think they have Dana Holgerson back in his second year as offensive coordinator. I think their offense takes a step this year. I think if the defense can play up to their potential and their offensive line can play up to its potential, I think that's going to be the key for them. But they have a very winnable schedule. I like the Cornhuskers to take a step, and I think they are a dark horse in this conference. The reason I don't think that they can I just think Penn State and Ohio State are way better than everybody
Yeah.
else. So I don't know that if they can climb into that echelon. I don't think they can, but I think they could be right behind them.
It's hard to do previews of these conferences, and especially staring at this logo, which I just find my eyes trained on. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's it's hard to just dismiss a lot of this. Like, so we're gonna play. Since you're the Big Ten guy, I'm gonna force you to play a game of good bad. You're only allowed to
Okay.
say good or bad, and I'm gonna say the team, and you're only allowed to say good or bad.
Deal.
Can't quantify what that means. You can't say like,
Why?
oh, I'm just saying you can't be like if the team's 5-4. Illinois.
So I'm gonna say bowl or no bowl.
Yeah, I like that. I like that better. Illinois.
Illinois bowl. Illinois is good, but
Indiana after making the CFP.
uh, bowl but barely.
Yeah. Okay. Bowl adjacent.
Yeah, bowl adjacent.
Now I'll let you give a few more sentences on this one. Michigan, always a team of interest, national champions 2 years ago. A lot of moving parts here. So much controversy. A really evil program, really, if we break it down. Hopefully they vacate that national championship like they should.
It's not
Okay.
happening.
Michigan.
It's not happening.
Michigan.
So Michigan, another team with a very winnable schedule.
Yeah.
The schedule makers did not punish them at
Pretty
all.
much just Ohio State and a couple of other little tests.
Yeah, much like the NCAA, they were not punished by the schedule makers. So they'll be all right. They have Bryce Underwood, number one recruit. They stole him away from LSU. So it'll be interesting to see how I think they'll be as good as he is, how fast he adjusts to the college game. But they did lose a major contributor, and that was Connor Stallions. He's not there, so they're going to have to do it on their own.
Yeah, that's
I don't,
tough.
I
Tough
don't
luck.
think I don't think they've ever done it on their own.
That's a great
So,
point.
and I
Hey,
also think Sharon Moore is a horrible coach.
what happened to their dual threat backup quarterback? He was like maybe he played. If you played a NCAA football video game, he was their default starter. If you did the franchise mode, I can't remember his
Yeah, I
name.
never played as Michigan in that. So
Well, I didn't play. I played as Texas, and we played at Michigan.
got you.
Okay. But he was supposed to be really good. I'm blanking on his name. He's a dual threat. He played games last year for them. He's not the quarterback though.
No, it's going to be Bryce Underwood.
Okay.
He is number one recruit last year.
Do you think there's actually a legitimate shot this team can make the Big Ten championship game?
Yes, unfortunately. Yeah.
I see them as a top 5. I mean, there's 18 teams, so saying top 5 isn't as like lame as it sounds.
Right.
Right.
No, they'll be in the top third of the conference.
Yeah. Okay, Purdue.
Unfortunately, Purdue worst team in the conference.
Yeah, miserable program. USC.
No bowl. I think USC implodes this year.
I think
USC is so weird. Lincoln Riley has been terrible there, and they are losing transfers to like Pitt and Cincinnati. Like people who like were contributors on their team last year would have been contributors this year are leaving. Like it's very weird. Miller Moss was their starting quarterback. He left. I think he's at Louisville.
Yeah, he's Louisville's quarterback.
Yeah. So like the writing's on the wall that I think USC could be going for some trouble.
No one wants to live in California anymore. Ask the residents of Florida and Texas.
It's very
No,
true.
no one wants to be in LA anymore. It's not cool anymore. No,
It's
but
not appropriate for the pod, but I saw a insane story about California today.
okay, we'll do it in our post show non-recording. I look forward to it. Uh, yeah, Lincoln Riley is just not caught on well there. He's kind of a program destroyer. It feels like. You know,
Well, he's a Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray merchant. Like he
right?
built his name on these great offenses at Oklahoma, and then he used that to get the USC job, and he's done nothing with it. I mean,
He
he had
can't.
arguably one of the best quarterbacks to come through college in the last 7 to 10 years, and he did nothing with him.
Totally squandered it. Couldn't even make the bowls. Yeah, it was kind of sad. Or not the bowls. Couldn't make the playoff and
Right. Yeah. So
couldn't beat Utah. Couldn't
no.
beat Utah.
Yeah.
And
So
their defense has just been. I think it was a little better last year, but the 2 years before that was just historically miserable. So, okay, Michigan State. Go ahead and have at it. I know this
so
is your club.
here,
Your
this is
club. We
Michigan
haven't
State.
even spoken about them yet.
Jonathan Smith comes back. We have Aiden Childs. Now, Aiden Childs was very inconsistent last year. He had some really big lows, but people forget he's still 19 years old. He was a former 5-star quarterback. And I'll give you a little hint. I have my little sources. He hasn't thrown a pick in camp yet this year.
Okay.
So if we get an Aiden Childs that goes out there and starts dealing, we have Nick Marsh, who's one of the best young receivers in the country that people don't know about because he went to Michigan State. Now, what I love is that he didn't leave. He could have gone to a bunch of big programs. He had transfer offers to go to big SEC schools, big ACC schools, and he stayed at Michigan State because he believes in Aiden Childs. I love that. They brought in Christian McCray from Kent State. Kent State bad. He was very good for them. Um, they have two. I'm blanking on the other. They have another receiver that was on the watch list for the what's the receiver award? Not the Broyles, but whatever
Biletnikoff.
that. Blitnikoff. Yeah, thank you. And so they have two receivers that were on the list for the Blitnikoff, and neither of them is Nick Marsh, who is their best receiver. Jack Velling was supposed to be their savior at tight end last year, but they didn't have receivers that could get open, which means they couldn't create space for Velling to get the ball. I think this year they're going to solve that problem. I think their offense is going to be markedly better. I think their defense is where there's some question marks, but they brought in some transfers.
Do you still have that monster tight end?
Jack Velling. That was our tight end. That was our tight end last year.
The absolute monster, right?
Yeah, he's very good. He's big.
Yes, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, he's very good. Yeah.
I don't know the roster head to toe.
No, no, you're right. That's fine. I'm not making.
Yep.
Yeah, we're good. But so now, all that being said, I am definitely looking at it through rose-colored glasses. There's a lot of questions on defense. Aiden Childs could revert to last year and just throw a million picks. So yeah, there's a world where I see them being a 4 or 5 win team, but I think more realistically, I think this is like I said before, 7 to 9 win team that is going to turn some heads, and I think they're going to be in a lot of the games they play this year.
Yeah. I have them as a 6-3 conference ceiling.
Yeah. And you know what? From where they were last year and where Mel Tucker, that asshole, left this program,
Awful.
if we're going in the right direction, if we go 6-3 in conference this year, where I think we're in the right direction. Out of conference, we should. We play BC, and then one of the directional Michigan schools,
Right.
and then I forget someone else very beatable. So I think out of conference we should be okay. And then in conference, if we can get through the conference with 3 losses, we avoid Ohio State, but I do know we have Penn State and we have Michigan, and Nebraska on the schedule, at least. So there's some potential for losses in there, but I'm much more optimistic this season than I was last year.
Yeah. So let's call that a bowl. We'll move on.
I think they'll make a bowl.
We'll move on to Northwestern, who's going to be god awful.
No bowl. No bowl.
Oregon, I see them taking a major
Bowl.
step back, but bowl obviously.
Still making a bowl, but yeah, I don't think they're a
I see
playoff
them as
team.
an 8-4 team out of the picture.
Yeah,
Maybe 9-3. We'll see. I do think that is it Dante Moore, their quarterback?
Dante Moore. Yep.
I think that'll be interesting. I think he's hyped. It's Oregon. Something about the Big Ten. Now that Oregon's in the Big Ten, now it even adds to this argument. Something about the Big Ten really produces asshole coaches like Harbaugh, Day, Mel Tucker, Dan Lanning. There's just something about playing in this conference that
Kirk Ferentz.
the guy at Rutgers who tries to injure Eli
Greg
Manning.
Schiano.
Yeah, or not Eli Manning. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
Eli Manning. He tried to injure him.
Yeah.
He told his guys to go full tackle on a kneel down play. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, even James Franklin.
Yeah, he's kind of an asshole. He's a little more tolerable because they don't actually win anything. But
it's fair.
Chip Kelly, back when he's at UC, or is he's at UCLA, right? No, he's gone, right?
Rowed the boat in Minnesota.
I am a PJ Fleck truther, okay? I am a truther for PJ Fleck. Washington, I've got them being kind of bad again.
I see what I think Washington is another team that could be a dark horse. They have Jed Fish in his second year. I think he could turn this team around. They don't have a super tough schedule. I think Washington could win some games this year. Bowl for Washington.
I think they're just a boring 5-4, 4-5 conference team. That's just how I see it. Yeah, probably a bowl, but Maryland is Tua's little brother still a quarterback there for like the 12th straight season.
Probably.
Yeah. Oh God, they're not going to be any good. That's my
Scott Van Pelt won't even want to watch them.
Yeah, Minnesota. I'm a PJ Fleck truther. I think this team always is fun and scrappy. Obviously, they're not going to make any real noise though, but they're always fun to watch. Bowl for me, Minnesota.
Yeah, no, Minnesota's got PJ Fleck has them in that like spot where every year he's a really good talker, so people are like, maybe Minnesota's a dark horse this year, and then they're never that good.
No.
So I think it's much of the same this year.
Yeah, UCLA. What the both these LA teams have just taken a huge dive. I expect them to be bad again.
Yeah, no, they're going to be really bad. They'll be with Purdue as maybe the worst.
And I've got Wisconsin as bad. I
think this is one of the worst Wisconsin years that they're going to have.
No bowl.
Which is really sad because I really like Luke Fickell, but he's really not got it going at Wisconsin.
No, I don't. They got.
I think it's a hard place to recruit.
It seems to be at this point. It never used to be, but
they don't have a history of like I feel like the things that they're historically good at and the positions they can recruit with their history are not places where like this year, like now is college football. Like
they've really only been relevant with Russell Wilson, and they're just the offensive line run the ball team, and if their defense isn't awesome, then they're a bad team.
I believe they do have Preston Stone, who was SMU's quarterback to start last year. Jennings took over for him. I believe he transferred to Wisconsin. So, on paper, he's more talented than any quarterback they've had recently, but I don't think that's going to translate.
Recap the Big Ten. We both got Penn State over Ohio State in the conference championship game. We both have Jeremiah Smith Player of the Year. I got Iowa as my dark horse. You've got Nebraska as your dark horse.
I'll take Aller as my Player of the Year.
Okay, switching it up.
I'll switch it up.
Where to next, my friend?
Next, let's go the SEC so that we can just kind of breeze through the Big 12.
Okay.
SEC.
At this point, the show's going to be long, so I don't really care.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I don't either. I have nowhere to be. But SEC, I'll let you kind of start there because this is your baby.
Yeah, SEC. Is it still the cream of the crop in college football? I personally think so. I still think there are a ton of top quality teams, obviously. We'll get to our bracket picks eventually in the show someday, maybe a couple hours from now. I've got 4 teams making the CFP. I do, which last year only 3 did, but I've got 4. I think this is a really deep and really interesting conference.
Me
You've got
too.
you've
Okay.
got an incredible amount of hype for my team, the Texas Longhorns.
Mhm.
The Arch Manning hype is out of control. I think the expectations they're so high they scare me to death. I am a little uncomfortable with the expectation. Texas hasn't been ranked number one in
Well,
God knows
your
how long.
national championship or bust.
They're putting that kind of pressure on it, and as a team that's been to the CFP and lost horribly in the semis 2 years in a row, um, yeah, I mean that makes sense for expectation.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I mean, we're gonna find out right away. They're gonna go into Columbus right away.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, I expect our defense to be incredible. I think we might have the defensive player of the year, Anthony Hill, on the team. Secondary took some hits, losing some guys to the NFL draft. Matthew Golden left. We lost Gunnar Helm, Isaiah Bond. A lot of talent. Jaden Blue's gone. But this is Texas. We have some good recruiting. We got some good transfers. The offensive line also has some questions. We lost some big offensive line pieces. We're not, I think we're returning the 14th least amount of production uh, in the SEC. So the number one ranking is a little bit surprising for me. I thought we'd come in around 4 or 5, but just a ton of hype here. Some other teams I'm really looking. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so just to touch on that, offensive production returning 40%. So it is very, you are not returning a lot in offense. I also think a little bit of this preseason ranking stuff is they really wanted to set up 1-2 Ohio
Right.
State. I think that was a big thing. But yeah, I, yeah, I
We
agree
don't
with a lot
we,
of what you're saying.
we don't have an easy schedule. You got Ohio State, you got Georgia, you got Florida, you got Texas A&M. Um, it's not going to be. You got to win two
You
of
got
those.
you got Oklahoma,
You got Oklahoma, of course. Yeah,
which is always
who shouldn't be as
tricky.
bad as they were last year. Um, you got to win 3 of those games to get in the college football playoff, really. So, yeah, a lot of hype, a lot of roster movement, ton of talent, though. The defense should be fantastic, but um, I'm I'm a bit worried about the level of expectation. Now, if we go into Columbus and win that week 1 game, fired up, fire up the hype machine. I'll be all in immediately. But if we lose, I'm gonna be cautiously optimistic for the rest of the season. A bunch of interesting teams here. Is Alabama gonna be? It's not like they were bad last year, but they weren't the Alabama under Nick Saban. Florida, everyone's hyping the hell out of them with DJ Lagway, quarterback, after they had a really strong finish to their season last year. Georgia always in the conversation. LSU is supposed to take a big step. Can they overcome Brian Kelly? It almost feels like. Can they win those big games? They often lose them just barely at the end. Oklahoma could be a lot better. South Carolina was awesome last year, returning their quarterback and a lot of important players. Top to bottom, this is still a very, very fine division. Arkansas, great quarterback. A lot of interest here. I went with Texas, maybe a little homerism, but I went with Texas defeating Alabama in the conference championship game. LSU is a real flashy pick. I'm seeing all over the place. So is Georgia. Well, not flashy. They're just Georgia. But I've got Texas beating Alabama in the conference championship game. My dark horse, who I really like, is Texas A&M. I think people make the joke Texas 8-4, Texas A&M.
Yep.
I think they have the ability to take a step forward this year. They played a ton of entertaining football games last year. Tough place to play, I guess. And Marcel Reed, I really like Marcel Reed, their quarterback. He was awesome when he came in relief last year. I think he takes a huge step forward. I think they're in this conversation to the end. I think past my top 5 teams, though, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Texas A&M. I think it's all quality football. It's the SEC. Every week is a real test. But those are my 5 teams I think can be in the conversation for the conference and for the college football playoff. I'm choosing to ignore the rest of them, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and you didn't even get to Ole Miss, who basically returns everything but Jackson Dart, and they have
Yeah,
Austin Simmons coming in, who is touted as high as anybody. So I think they're going to be in there too. But yeah, you did touch on Texas. Um, I think we kind of talked about that. You mentioned Florida, and so Florida was a team that I was looking at for my dark horse, and I know a lot of people have been talking about them, but I don't. Have you seen their schedule?
it's insane.
It might be the hardest schedule they play. They start out with LIU in South Florida, which South Florida, it's going to be a lot of kids who probably didn't get recruited by Florida and
Yeah,
are hungry. So that's always a tough one. But then they go at LSU, at Miami, home for Texas, at Texas A&M, home for Mississippi State, Georgia in a neutral site, at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Florida State. There is not after week 2, every game is
other than
almost a
Kentucky,
toss up.
other than Kentucky, I think. But yeah,
But even like going to
yeah, it's
Kentucky,
it's the SEC. It's the
yeah,
SEC. These aren't.
exactly.
There's no cupcakes in this league.
I mean, Mississippi State too. They get them at home. That's probably the easiest game in their schedule. Um, but yeah, I mean, Florida. I like DJ Lagway. I think they have a lot of talent. I just don't see them overcoming that schedule. It's
And
it's 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 crazy.
the expectation that they built after last year's finish, I think, it actually is harming them right now. Because and Florida fans are not very patient. So yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it's a disappointing year. I don't think they're bad. I just think it's a disappointing year. They're ranked number 15 right now. I don't think they'll be ranked by the end of the year.
One team that when I go to my kind of dark horse, and it's a team we haven't touched on yet. Um, Last year they had a lot of expectation. They didn't quite live up to them, although they did have a hell of a year. Um, but I'm going with Missouri. So Missouri, a team that they did lose. Um, they lost their quarterback. But they added Joe Prabula, who, if you've heard the name before, it's because he was on Penn State last year and he got some run. And I think he is a really good quarterback. There were people at times last year that were calling for him to start over Drew Aller. So they have him. I think they're going to kind of reload. And then when I look at their schedule, you know who I don't see on it? Texas. You know who I don't see on it? Georgia. You know who I don't see on it? Florida. You know who I don't see on it? Auburn. You know who I don't see on it? Tennessee. They don't play any of those teams. Their conference schedule is Alabama and then they do play Auburn, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Arkansas. As far as an SEC schedule gets, it's not
It's
a
manageable.
murderer's row. It's
Yeah.
manageable, absolutely. So I think that if Prabula plays to the potential, I think he will. I think Missouri could be a team that at the end of the year you're looking up, and all of a sudden they only have 2 or 3 losses, if that. So I think Missouri could be a team that could make some noise this year. I like Eli Drinkowitz, their coach. Um, I like the program and the way he's got it going. So their only losses last year, they lost to Alabama, Texas A&M, and then South Carolina in a game that they really had control of and should have won.
Yeah.
They lost right at the end. Lenora Sellers with a couple big plays. So I like Missouri this year, and I think that's a team that people are sleeping on. Two
Yeah.
losses 2 years ago, 3 losses last year. They're definitely a team trending up.
That win against Clemson was a special moment for them. And I was on this, well, on a, there was a guy that looked like me on an old show that doesn't exist anymore who was stumping for them to be the 12th seed. I really thought they deserved to get in. I agree with that guy from that other show. But they didn't get in. Quite frankly, putting them in and maybe putting in a couple other teams that were right on the fringe might have made for a more exciting college football playoff last year. But again, we're not doing that revisionist, deserved to be in, didn't deserve to be in nonsense. It was what it was. But
And then for my conference championship, I do have Texas. I have them beating LSU. I think LSU. I
Yeah.
think Garrett Nussmeier is as good as anybody in the country, and I think that in spite of Brian
He,
Kelly, LSU will be good this year.
he does turn the ball over a lot. That's my
Yeah.
one concern. He obviously has the firepower to go to. They played a ton of wild games last year too. That Texas A&M game, they melted at the end. Um, they played some serious shootouts though. They definitely have the firepower. I
And
want to pump the brakes on Nussmeier a tiny bit. I think the hype train is getting out of control.
well,
Uh,
and uh, just like Texas, we're gonna find out right away because their first game of the season is at Clemson. So,
Great
um,
game.
yeah, that's
All
gonna
this
be
all this real Death Valley trash talk and who are the
the other
real
thing is
Tigers and
that could be the first and second quarterback taken in the draft next year going up against each other.
it's very interesting. Um, how do you see
Uh,
Georgia doing with Gunnar Stockton?
so, I mean, Gunnar Stockton, I when he took over last year, I didn't think they fell off very much, or if at all.
He
Um,
was quite frankly better against Texas than um, Beck was in that conference championship game.
yeah, I don't think. I just for some reason I think Texas is going to be a great team as we'll talk about in a little bit, or Georgia. I'm sorry, it's going to be a great team. I think they're on. I think Stockton holds them back just because I haven't seen enough from him to make me a true like believer that Gunnar Stockton's going to be a guy that can lead this team.
Yeah, I
I
don't know if
mean,
he has the full capability with his arm. He's a capable runner. He makes some plays. I just think he might run into some trouble in some of the bigger moments.
I agree, and I think a lot of other teams that we've talked about have gotten better. I don't know if Georgia has,
Yeah, I don't
which
know if they have that same elite defense that we're used to seeing. It
yeah.
wasn't as good last year, and I think we might. I, step back's harsh. I think they'll still be very good, but I don't think they're going to win this conference or be undefeated or anything like that.
Yeah, and they also have. I just put it down, but I think they have a little bit of a tougher schedule this year too.
Yeah. Just a quick little roundup for me. I think Tennessee takes a big step back. I think Vanderbilt takes a big step back from their shocking performance last year. Um, and I do think Oklahoma, with their gambling quarterback and two new coordinators, might not might not live up to the expectations, and they might just be another 7-5 team. I don't know. Those are my final takes on this conference.
Yeah, and a team that's getting a lot of hype that I don't quite love as much as other people do is South Carolina.
Yeah,
A lot of
I'm not with it either. I
not a
think
lot
it's
of
a step back.
preseason hype, but they basically don't bring back anybody but Lenora Sellers and Dylan Stewart. Now, Lenora Sellers and Dylan Stewart are, round one NFL talents, but I don't think they have a surrounding cast of characters this year like they did last year. So I think South Carolina is not going to live up to the hype. But I did want to go back quickly to Georgia because I did just pull up their schedule. Marshall and Austin P, and then at Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky, at Auburn, Ole Miss, Florida, Mississippi State, Texas, Charlotte, and then at Georgia Tech for their final game of the season. So a lot of tough games on that schedule, and I think that's kind of going to be the difference there for Georgia.
Not an easy schedule. Yeah, I think they survive it, but I don't think they win the conference. If I did pick A&M, like I said, as my dark horse. If I had to
Yeah.
pick another dark horse, it would be Auburn. I think that I think they're going to pull themselves out of the depths they've been in the last couple of years. They showed some signs last year, but they didn't quite get it done in some of their bigger games. I think they have the potential to be a pretty good team this year. And I think their schedule is not as tough as uh as some of the other.
Yeah, I've mentioned them on a lot of these other schedules, so that makes me a little bit nervous, but I agree that it's not
Well,
to the.
they've got an immediate test. Boy, we got some good games early. They play Baylor in what should be a good
Oh,
litmus
that
test
should be a great game.
for both teams. Ball State, South Alabama, no worries there. Then Oklahoma, A&M, Georgia, Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt. So the Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mercer stretch. That should be you could project that maybe 4-0. So if they can just kind of win two of these bigger games, and then obviously they got the Iron Bowl. They can win
Yeah,
two of these bigger games and maybe go into the Iron Bowl with only 2 losses. They could have a shot.
they'll be in the conversation for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
who did you
How
have?
cool would that be if that game comes down to
Oh,
a CFP spot or a conference championship berth? Like,
unbelievable.
yeah,
That'd be awesome.
yeah.
Who did you have for your player of the year for the SEC?
I went out on a limb here. I went with Marcel Reed, quarterback for Texas A&M.
Ooh, I like that. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I went with Dylan Stewart, defensive end, South Carolina. I think he is a monster. He put up monster sack numbers last year, and I think he's going to get after it again this year. On a team that I don't think will be that good, I think he's going to be that good. So Dylan Stewart's my player of the year. Probably
Well,
won't happen because his team will be too bad, and he's the defensive end, but I like him.
all
And
right.
I
Yeah.
didn't know how I was going to work his name in, and I wanted to.
I went with Texas over Alabama in the conference championship game. You went with Texas over LSU. I got Texas A&M and Auburn as my dark horses, and you have Missouri and did you have a second one?
I didn't, but if I did,
Yeah, it's fun.
and it wasn't Auburn, it would be actually Oklahoma. I do kind of like.
Yeah, no, I do see that as a possibility. I just think there's a lot of turnover. Venables giving away defensive coordinating calls is, I don't know. He's always been a great defensive coordinator. I never thought he was a good fit when he came in to be a head coach. I always thought he was great as that focused, intense guy. So I don't know. I don't know if he's the right guy to coach this team. We'll see though. We'll see.
I really like John Mateer is really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Except he likes to gamble on sports.
Heaven forbid.
Well, I mean, I got no problem with it. We love it, but I'm just saying.
Although to be fair, if all the things I wrote on Venmo were actually what the money I was sending was for, I would also be arrested.
Right. Yeah. I mean, really rare dragon's eggs don't exist. So I guess I have a lot of questions to answer to, among other things. So that brings us to the Big 12, huh?
The Big 12. Well, it might not be the most talented conference.
Or the
Boy,
most
it could.
or the
Boy,
most
it could be the funnest because it's the any given Saturday conference.
Remember last year there was like 8 teams, or I'm exaggerating. There were like 6 teams on the final weekend who could have won the conference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might have even been 8, but yeah, it was kind of crazy.
It was.
So they're just top to bottom. Nobody like stands out, but they could all kind of be that team. They could all be the TCU from a few years ago that made that run. So
I know they could all play for the right to lose by 60 in the national championship game. To be fair, that was one of the best college teams ever in Georgia.
The Texas Arizona State game?
No, I'm saying.
Sorry.
I'm saying when TCU lost to Georgia in the national championship game, that was one of the best teams ever.
Yeah.
To be fair, when they lost by a billion. I actually kind of disagree with you here, Nick. I think 2 teams do fully stand out from even 3 teams fully stand out as the cream of this crop. But why don't you start?
All right, I'll go ahead and start. So we'll just go right to it. For my conference championship game, I have Texas Tech over Kansas State. I love Texas Tech. With the caveat being it's basically an entire brand new roster. They went and they spent a lot of money in the offseason and recruiting, but I think they spent it well.
What we should do? You know how you said they're giving stars to transfers? We got to give stars to the booster roster. The boosters, like Texas Tech's got a 5-star booster. You know what I mean? Like a real oil man. You think
they should. They should rank the boosters.
Right. Like
they should rank. Yeah, they should. That should
the NIL. Right. NIL boosters.
They should. There should be NIL top 25s. But yeah, I think that they're going to be really good this year. I like Texas Tech a lot. And then Kansas State. I love Avery Johnson. And I think Kansas State's that team that like every year it's like man, could they like be the year that they kind of make a step? They do it like they're in it every year. I really like Kansas State this year. I don't particularly like have a strong feeling why. It's just gut feeling. I think they're going to be good.
I do love Avery Johnson and their running back. Can't
Yeah,
remember his name, but I think he led the nation in yards per carry last year, like 7.7 yards per carry or something. So uh, they're
yeah,
definitely they're returning a couple studs. This conference, like you said, is chaotic to even look at. Really, they have
yeah.
all the conferences we're previewing have a billion teams in them. This one is the hardest one for me to look at without squinting really hard. I don't know why, but it is.
Um, Another team, and this kind of was going to be my dark horse, is TCU. I let me TCU in 2023 had the first top rated recruiting class in the Big 12. 2024 they were second, and then this year they have the first rated recruiting class again. So on paper, they could have the most talented roster of anybody in this conference. They return a good deal of their offense, so I think TCU is another team that I think they could be more towards the TCU 2 years ago than the TCU of last year.
Well, I think you mean 3 years ago, because two
3
years ago,
years.
2 years ago, they were wicked disappointing. They lost to Colorado, and the world was set on fire. Um, and then last year, they were kind of competitive, right? Yeah, the first Dion year. Yeah,
Yeah. It was the year before Michigan won. Yeah, you're right.
correct.
You're right.
Correct.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're right. You're right.
but I
Because
hear what
they
you're saying. I
the
hear
year
what you're.
they the year they beat Michigan, and they have Josh Hoover at quarterback, who I think is really good. Could be and I think this whole conference actually is sneaky a really good quarterback conference.
Oh, it's time for us to pour one out for Cam Rising, who officially medically retired. He there was a that show we used to watch. They loved him on that show. They talked about him constantly. Um, week to week, was he going to play? It's a sad day. Cam Rising medically retired. Was supposed to be the Heisman winner 2 years ago. It shit happens. Um,
It is the end of an era because, boy, every week you're on pins and needles if he was going to play. And
yeah,
the answer was always no.
always no. Always,
Always no.
yeah. And that roster was loaded and had a chance, but he just couldn't get on the field. I agree with you very much on the Texas Tech take. I think they are poised to be a really good team. They are my dark horse, actually. They're not in my conference championship game, but they're my dark horse. I see them third in this conference with a really nice season, but just missing out on all the fun of the playoff and the conference championship game. But I echo a lot of what you said there. My conference championship game is Arizona State, who, yes, as we know, won it last year, played a crazy game against Texas. Um, they lose Cam Scatabo, probably, in my opinion, the best player in college football last year. Just pound for pound, what he was doing, um, the position he played, the amount of punishment he gave out, and just basically dragging that team where it was. Okay, Ashton Genty, whatever. He played against plumbers and electricians. anyways, yeah, I love Arizona State again this year, and the reason why is Sam Levitt. I was extremely impressed with his play against Texas, and I've been watching Arizona State betting on midnight games for years. I think he's extremely talented. I think he's going to keep this team at the level they are. They were last year. Kansas State is who they're beating in the conference championship game. I'm with you on that take. I think Kansas State has a really talented roster. Avery Johnson, like you said. So those are my top three teams, clear cut in this conference. I think they actually separate a little bit this season. Are you down on Arizona State?
I'm not down on Arizona State. I just am more up on the other teams. I think Scotabo is going to be a really big loss. Levitt, I think Levitt's good. Levitt, second year at Arizona State, transferred from Michigan State.
Michigan State. Oh yes. You always bring that up, man. I
Yeah.
think he'd be a great fit there, but oh well.
Yeah.
Look, Arizona State. People forget they had one of the best in my opinion, top 10 receivers in the country last year, Jordan Tyson. He got hurt and didn't play down the stretch. They still won their conference championship game. They almost beat Texas, losing in overtime. I think he's an extremely good player. So the Levitt to Tyson connection remains there. You're not going to replace Cam Scatterbo, but they'll be fine there. I really like this team. So they're my conference champion. My player of the year is Sam Levitt. And yeah, I don't really want to talk about this conference much more. I don't know if you do, but we can if you'd like.
No, I think it's going to be a bunch of teams cannibalizing each other,
I
and
agree. I agree. It just well, you
we
should
are going to talk more
give the
about this
shine to
conference.
Baylor. Give the shine to Baylor because I know you wanted to.
I think Baylor's going to be very good. I think I didn't have a thing prepared for Baylor,
Oh,
but
it's okay. You mentioned them earlier. I thought maybe they were on your radar.
no, they are. I mean, they're on a lot of people's radar preseason.
Not
They're
ranked
one.
though.
They're one of the picks, but yeah, I do think the Baylor Auburn game is going to be. I I think that's going to be a very good game at the beginning of the season. Tell us a lot about both those teams. I also really like Art Briles. I just think he's a really good coach.
I agree. I agree.
So I like Baylor because of that, in part too. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think this conference, I think they'll be very fun to watch in the conference. I think they'll be very competitive. But I think once they get outside of the conference, I think they're a step below everybody else.
Yeah. So I got Arizona State over Kansas State. You've got Texas Tech over Kansas State. I got Texas Tech as my dark horse, and you are rolling with TCU as your dark horse. Who was your player of the year?
Avery Johnson.
Yeah. Okay. Don't hate that pick at all. I obviously went Sam Levitt for Arizona State. So now the Pac-12 preview. Okay, and we're moving on from the Pac-12 preview. What are we hitting on next?
Yeah, so now we're kind of into our national conversation. Your playoff bracket. I don't know. I think we're gonna do the whole bracket, but you're basically, I think your semifinals, who you think is going to be there, and then who's going to be your national champion, and then Heisman picks.
Yeah. Yeah. I am going to list the 12 teams. I'm not going to break down what the matchups
That's
are. I'm
good.
not going to go through each thing. I'll just list the teams, then I'll give you my semifinals and my champion. I got Texas, Penn State, Clemson, Alabama, Arizona State, Notre Dame, who we haven't talked about, but is always solid.
Join a conference, and we'll preview you.
Yeah, exactly. Lloyd Carr's grandson is their quarterback, and their running back is a stud. So, but let's not dig too much into Notre Dame. They're annoying.
Fuck Lloyd Carr.
LSU, Georgia, Boise State as the one non-power conference team that must get in. A very boring pick, but I mean, what else am I going to do? Ohio State, Miami, and Iowa as the 12 seed, which is a terrible pick, but I knew it would upset you a little bit, so I went with the 12 seed.
It only upsets me because we're going to be known as the podcast that's wrong.
Yeah, well, you can fix that. And then I figure I'm a Texas fan. If there's a year to ride the hype, I don't want to miss out on it. So I'm going Texas.
Ride Bevo all the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going Texas over Clemson in my national championship game. Real good game, but Cade Klubnik cannot get his revenge from last year. Texas wins the national championship. All the hype is achieved. Arch Manning is the king of the world, and it's the fairy tale narrative that everyone is trying to will to happen. It's not gonna happen, but that's what I got to happen.
So the way that I set my bracket up, unfortunately, Clemson and Texas play each other in the semifinals.
Ooh, okay.
But I'm in the same way. So I had Penn State at 1, Texas, then Clemson, then Ohio State at 4, Notre Dame 5, Texas Tech at 6, Miami at 7. I have them getting in. LSU at 8, Nebraska at 9. I think Nebraska makes it. And then Georgia and Alabama at 10 and 11 respectively, and then Boise State as my 12.
So no
Uh,
LSU for you.
no, LSU was 9
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Okay.
or 8. Sorry, they're
Yeah,
playing Nebraska.
yeah, we've got
Um,
pretty similar rankings, honestly. Yeah, not too
yeah,
far off. Yeah.
yeah, you threw Iowa in there for no reason, but that's fine.
Well,
Um,
we yeah. Anyway, we cleared the air on that. We cleared the air. Yeah.
and then so in my national championship game, I have Penn State going against the Clemson Tigers, and I have the Clemson Tigers as your 2026 national champions.
2026. Yes, I'm glad you said it the right way. Um,
Yeah, so I think, and that was just kind of the way my bracket broke down. But I do think that the national championship game will be some sort of Texas, Clemson, Penn State, Ohio State mashup. I think you could maybe see a Bama sneak in there, but I really think those four teams are kind of a step above.
yeah, I feel the same way. I think we both only had the Big 12 champion getting in. Is that correct?
Yes, I don't have a second Big 12 team.
Yeah, so my representation in the conference, I had four SEC teams in. Well, they only got three last year. They certainly had an argument to get four or even five in last year, but I think
Did
they
you
did.
only have one ACC?
Um, no, I have Miami as my 11 seed.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got two from the ACC. Got I've got three from the Big Ten, one from the Big 12, and four from the SEC. So,
I have
and
the
then Notre Dame is the independent, and then the arbitrary non-power conference team with Boise State. So.
I have the exact same breakdown conference wise. I have four SEC, three Big Ten, two ACC, an independent, and Boise State.
Yeah, well, it's college football, and it's always extremely exciting, but
It's
it
college
does
football and it's preseason, and we haven't seen these teams play, and they're basically brand new teams.
and it does end up being, for the most part, typically you're
Chalk.
not getting a Final Four team outside the preseason top 15 very often, or even top 10. It's very rare for that to happen. So, um, I don't feel bad about the chalkiness of it, because college football is pretty ultimately breaks down to be pretty chalky sometimes. So
It does. You're right.
yeah,
It does.
but these matchups are next when we do the week one previews. I mean, we're just gonna it's a feast. It's incredible how we're getting kicked off this season. So.
All right. And then kind of as we wrap up here, Heisman pick. Who do you got for Heisman this year? I know you had the odds up earlier. Yep.
Yeah, there's the odds right there. Manning is the odds-on favorite right now. A lot of expectations for a guy who hasn't played much. As you can see, it's very quarterback dominant. Um, just saying, coming in at plus 2,200. Jeremiah Smith's the only non-quarterback on that list right there. I went with Cade Klubnik. I think he really has a transformational season. I don't mind grabbing the 950 odds. I can't really see a world in which Clemson has more than a loss, I guess. I think they're going to split their tough games, the two really hard games they have, and I think they win the conference. I think he puts up great numbers with his legs and through the air, and they just win a lot of games in big fashion. So that's my pick. And I've got my dark horses would be, I like Sam Levitt at plus 2,000, and Marcel Reed, who doesn't appear on this list, is about, I think he's plus 3,000 or so. I'm going all in on him. I think the expectations are too much to bet on Arch at only plus 700, but I do think he's going to have a nice season. Obviously, I just don't think he's the Heisman.
Yeah, and so what I wrote down was Kate Klubnik. Looking at that list, though, I think there is some value. I think Drew Aller at plus 2,200. He's going to be the quarterback on what could be the best team in the country. So I think that is a nice line. And then if you're looking for kind of a really far down on here, if Florida's going to be good, it's because DJ Lagway is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So I think plus 2,500 with DJ Lagway is not a bad number if you believe in Florida. Like I said, though, I think the biggest problem there is how hard that schedule is. But that being said, he's going to have plenty of opportunities to earn that. So I don't hate DJ Lagway there at 2,500.
All it takes is for a team that we're projecting to be really good but not great, like an 8-4 Florida or a 9-3 Florida or whatever. All it takes is for them to win two of those big games, and
Yeah.
suddenly the quarterback is right at the top of the conversation. So
Yeah, I mean Lagway could have a very like Manziel-ish season where
right,
like his team's 9-3, but he has big moments against Bama and
right.
Georgia, and he could win a title that way.
Yeah,
So
you don't absolutely have to be 11-0 or 11-1, 12-0 to be the Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, it helps your cause a lot, and it's more likely that scenario than not. But there are ways to not be in a conference championship game or in a college football playoff and still win the Heisman if you have just that kind of year. I mean, look, Cam Ward.
yeah,
Yeah, they didn't have a big game at the end of the
no,
year, and so yeah. There's definitely a ton of good value on this list. I'm sure someone who's not even on this list, way down there in the 5,000, 6,000 region, will be in the conversation towards the end of the year. That's how these things work.
yeah,
So,
no,
um,
absolutely.
yeah,
All right, and then quickly, kind of rapid fire. The three kind of main. I think there's four games, but three with lines.
there's
Uh,
there's five. There's five.
is there
Hang on.
five?
Yeah, I think I can actually show it here.
I
Uh,
didn't see the line for one of them, but the biggest one, obviously, being Farmageddon over in Dublin, Ireland, as we get a conference game right off the bat. With just like we did last year, honestly, with Florida State and Georgia Tech. This year we get uh, Iowa State versus Kansas State. Kansas State, a team we've already said we think is going to be very good. I have
this
I
graphic
can't
ain't
quite
helping anyone, by the way.
I can't make it out, but I have Kansas State as 3-point favorites with the over under at 49.5. Have either of those moved?
I don't know. Is this any
What do we
better?
got?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is better. Yep. So Kansas State -3, over under sitting at 49.5. I like Kansas State with the points. I do think Iowa State's a decent team. I just, as I said, I'm very high on Kansas State. Um, so that's a 12 p.m. kickoff in Ireland. I like Kansas State -3. I like the under. Just because I like a lot of unders in the first week. You don't quite know what to expect.
Hmm.
Although I do love the Kansas State offense, so maybe I
Yes.
don't love the under. I might
So
like
maybe
the over.
I saw something great about this game. Kansas State had one of the best rushing attacks in college football last year. Iowa State had one of the worst rushing defenses last year. Um, I think it profiles terribly for Iowa State. I think Kansas State goes out and makes a statement. I think they win this game heavily. Um, and the game in Dublin last year, remember, Georgia Tech shocked Florida State in that game. So always
They
look for
did. It
yeah,
was a shock at the time. By the end of the season, it was
right.
not.
It was not, but
Yeah.
it was actually one of Florida State's better games by the end of the
Yeah,
year.
that's very true. It was
But
probably the best game they played all year.
it was a very entertaining kickoff to the season last year. So I hope for the same. I think Kansas State wins this game, and I actually like the over. I'm not gonna lie to you. So
Yeah, no, these two teams meeting in the first game, they met in the last game of the season last year. Iowa State did win that one 29-21. Um, but yeah, expect to reverse this year. And then we have Fresno State is going to Lawrence. Kansas is a 12.5 point favorite. Um, Over under of 50.5 here. Zach, what do you like in this game?
Kansas is one of these teams that the last few years they're really hard to predict what they're doing from game to game. So give me the points. I'll take Fresno State with the points in the week one game.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Kansas, yeah, Kansas is tough, but I think Fresno State might be really bad this year.
Okay,
Um,
fair enough. I don't know. I would be
I
lying if I said I
I
knew
don't.
anything about him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I'm just going by the little I think I've read about them. Um, so I'm gonna take Kansas with the points here. Classic, just very hyped, very at home. First game of the year. Kansas, obviously a basketball school, but has had a decent football program last few years. So I think there's a little bit more hype around the program than there has been historically. So I'm gonna go Kansas with the points here, for the purposes of this. But realistically, I would probably stay away.
Yeah, I agree. We're on the same page about staying away.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then yeah, Stanford against
How the
Hawaii.
how far has this program fallen that they're underdogs to Hawaii? What on is Hawaii good or something?
7:30 kickoff. Hawaii is some. There's some dark horse talk about Hawaii, but I think this is more a testament on how bad people think Stanford's going to be. I think Stanford is a team that is just on paper they brought in Andrew Luck, and it's not really paying off dividends yet. They had one of the best young offensive lines in the country actually last year, and they basically lost the entire thing to other power programs. They were decimated by transfers at Stanford, so I think they're going to take a fall here. Obviously, it's always interesting a team going all the way out to Hawaii. Um, so I'm going to take Hawaii in the points here. Um, and I'm gonna go. I would take the under just because I don't know if Stanford's gonna put up any points.
There have been dozens of times in my life where Hawaii's the midnight kickoff, and I'm like, well, I gotta, I gotta bet. Usually because I'm down on the week,
Yeah, you're chasing.
or you just want some action late night. And Hawaii's just burnt. I have an abysmal betting record on Hawaii. Whenever I bet on them, they don't show up. Whenever I bet against them, they're suddenly the impenetrable fortress of Honolulu. Um, I'm going with Stanford. I'll buy it up. I'll buy it up to +3. I don't mess with 2.5 point lines. Buying that up to 3. Stanford +3. Um, they can't be that bad, right? That's my only logic on that game.
Okay, and that's perfectly logical to me, as well as I am right there with you. Where every time I bet Hawaii, I feel like it's a loser. So
Just
I'm just
miserable
gonna
with them.
keep eating the same piece of cheese, though. So yeah,
Is it still June Jones? No way, right?
I don't think it's been June. I don't think it's.
I think he died.
No, that was Tommy Chang.
Oh yeah, June Jones is fully alive. Okay, sorry about that, guy.
Or not Tommy Chang. That was Colt Brennan. He died.
Yeah, Colt Brennan dead. Timmy Chang, he's the head coach. He's fully alive.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of misinformation being spread
Yeah.
around here.
Not our area of expertise out in the middle of the Pacific. But
Yeah. So and I think that's kind of the slate for week 0. And that's kind of our first show. So first episode CFP in the books. Somebody grab the ball and we'll put it on the mantle. Um,
yeah,
I promise it only gets better as ball is actually played.
yeah,
Um,
these shows will be much more succinct, straightforward, going through lines rapidly. Um, you know, I don't know exactly how our format's gonna be, but it'll be a lot of action. We'll be talking about a lot of bets. So
yeah, we'll be back next Wednesday. Well, we'll record next Monday. I don't know when we'll post
yeah,
it, but
yeah.
we'll
Next
we'll be
week,
back next week. And we'll go over what is a loaded. We'll recap Farmageddon, what happens week 0, and we'll go over an absolutely loaded week 1, and then we'll hit the ground running because we'll be able to talk about those games and we'll know what's what, and we'll go forward. So,
yeah, be on the lookout for shows dropping randomly, but they'll be on the page. Dude, shut up is the channel you need to subscribe to. Um, but yeah,
yeah,
it's gonna be a lot of fun this year, and we covered a great deal. People watch the show, they might say, "Oh, okay, it's really long." Well, you didn't get cheapened. Okay, you got your money's
no,
worth.
no,
Covered a lot.
you'll get your money's worth every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, follow us on socials. Follow the again, Dude Shut Up is the channel on YouTube. Subscribe, even if you don't want to, just do it.
Just
Literally makes no difference to you. Just
we're
click the
trying to
button.
monetize. Come on,
Yeah,
be
yeah.
nice to
No,
people.
we've
We
you'll be
really need
saving us from Jahatsu.
we need them. We need the money. Yeah,
We do
yeah.
for Jahatsu. Have a great day.